Okay, this is an impromptu video. No laughing, it is not professional. But it's just some basics on how I train puppies for show. I have two. This is Java, and she's 7 months old, and she's a very different puppy than the other one, and I'll do different things with her. She's very up, so I'll be more calm. And for her, standing still is a challenge. But when I talk about free baiting and getting a dog to free stack, I'll practice in the kitchen, off. I have a piece of string cheese. And what I'll try and do is get them to stand still. 1, 2, yes! And then I try and get them to stand approximately how I want them. And I'll have the leash that has some tension. And I'll say 1, 2, okay, come on, that's a good girl. You say, I want to sit, good girl. Okay. 1, 2, stand, yes. 1, yes. Yes, good girl. And once I can get them to stand, you give them a command, just say stand or show. Stand. 1, 2. 1, 2, yes. And then ideally you can get to, okay, that's a good girl. Just back her up. Or it might be easier with some dogs. Come on. To walk them around you, and that's just have them go around you. Java, come on. Java. Come on. Get the leash. Come here. Stand. Yes. And ideally, I want her feet to be pretty much, if you're looking at her from the side, in the same line, like, that's a good girl. Like that. That's a good girl. So, a lot of this you can just do in the kitchen when you have their dinner. You'll have them, you've been training sit, come on, sit, good girl. You just pull it out and say stand, and you let them have a bit of cookie. I have some cookie here. So I'll just say stand. Come on. Stand. Yes, good girl. And once they do, I tell them, I mark it with a yes or a good. Java. Stand. Yes. And that's pretty much all you want at the beginning, is they just learn to stand for cookies. Now, it's also really handy if you have a dog that you can position by hand, which is called stacking or hand stacking. And I start all my baby puppies with that. And what I'll do is I'll have a piece of string cheese in my fingers, and she's nibbling on it. And I'll just keep that steady, and I'll run my hand to her elbow. Won't move that. Other elbow, move that. Good girl. And scratch. And just while she's nibbling that straight cheese, I'll position her legs. And so she learns that, the cheese is good and her legs get positioned. Now notice I try and keep my hands on her all the time, and I'll scratch. And she moves a bit forward, I'll push back a little bit with the food. And her hand, and she just follows the food. She's just following the cookie. She likes her cookies. And I'll just practice getting her to stand and let me position her legs. Because sometimes it's just really hard to get them to walk into the right position. And then I get the leash right under her chin. You don't want a double chin. And then I put my hand out in front as she's nibbling. Good girl. Stand. 1, 2, yes. Good girl, yeah. And it's really important to play. You know, they're standing, and even in the ring, you can play with your dog. Java, are you ready? That's a good girl. Where's the cookie? Okay. Stand. Yes. That's a good girl. Get it. Ready, ready, ready. Stand. Yes. Okay, she's not standing too great, but if she sits, just have her stand, and when she's standing, good girl. Come here. That's a good girl. And it just takes practice. They need to learn to have your hands on their body, and you do not move from here. It's like if somebody wants to, if you just want to go down, hold the elbow, use this arm to push them towards you. See, if I push her, it gets the weight off of there. Like if you're standing on one leg, it's almost impossible for somebody to move that leg without you falling over. So you want to kind of get the weight off of it, push it back on, and position the other leg from the elbow, and scratching her ears. Good girl. Telling her, good girl. I run my hand down that leg, and I position it from here. You don't want to grab. Just think if somebody grabbed your Achilles tendon. You just sort of position from there. And once they're ready, say, yes. Good girl. Awesome. That was awesome. Yeah. So that's hand stacking, and it's just a lot of, they learn that your hand's going over them, and that's kind of like the judge will do, means they have cookies. And you can't expect them to be fine with this total stranger doing that unless they're good with you doing it. Now, as far as the teeth, what I'll do is I'll get my fingers under the collar and just say, teeth. Good girl, that was good, yay. Get a little bit of cheese. I put it in my mouth because it's handier than my pocket, and I'll just say, teeth. Good girl. If I have it in my hand, then sometimes it's a little bit complicated to kind of get them to not focus on the food. So I have it handy. Teeth, yes. Mark it and give them a cookie. So it's kind of unfair to have them be able to, have them, expect them to have a total stranger come up, open their mouths and take a look at their teeth. But if you've been practicing this and you just say, teeth, and give them a cookie, they'll be good with it. And most days, these days, because of concern about spreading any germs between different dogs, they will have you show the teeth. And again, to show the bite, come here, come on. I'll put my fingers in the collar so she can't back out of it. And I don't pull it. I have my hands in the collar so it's stable. I mean, it won't tighten. And I'll have one hand under here, and I'll just have my thumb sort of pull down the bottom teeth, and these fingers pull up the top lips and the bottom lips. Teeth. Good girl. Yeah, that's a good girl. And you rub ears, you scratch under the chin. It should be a pleasant teeth. Good girl. That's a good girl. And at this point, just worry about showing the front of the teeth, which is what most, eventually you have to learn that. The big thing is don't pinch. You wouldn't like it if somebody pinched your lips against your teeth. So that here you just sort of gently raise the lips and push that down, push the bottom lip down, but don't push in against the teeth. Because if you make it unpleasant, they're not going to like it. Good girl. So I'll do a little bit of gating. So basically, you'll stand the dog Come on. The judge will come up, and when the judge comes up, they'll usually ask you to show the teeth. Now, again, drop the leash. You can drop the leash, you don't have to worry about it, put it out of the way. Put your hand to the collar, show the teeth, and then you'll put your hand, try and get their ears up again, and the judge will go over their bodies. And as the judge, sometimes the judge will want to check the head, feel the head, and just practice doing that with your dog, because it's not fair to have a stranger do something they're not comfortable with you doing, and know the routine. And the judge will run their hands down over the body, and you want to keep the head towards the front. And you can do that by, rubbing the ears and talking to them. Good girl, good stand. Or getting a really good cookie out in front. I mean, you don't do this with kibble. And when I go to the big shows, what I do is I get a steak and I only eat half of it and have the rest of the steak for the dog to bait the next day. But ideally, when you have a puppy, while the judge is going over them, I just let them chew on have a hot dog or piece of chicken, and bring that out as soon as the judge will come up and kind of go over the body like this. And while the judge is doing that, I'll just have this big piece of chicken or liver or something really scrumptious right in front of their nose and let them chew on it. Depending on the dog, you can just have the cookie there and rub their tummy. But again, you want to be able to go over the puppy, yes, and touch it everywhere and make it pleasant. You run your hand down, you do some scratches, run your hand down a little bit more, scratch. Yeah, this is all very pleasant. It's not grabbing and holding and grabbing the tail. Yeah, that's fun. And she thinks it's fun. But then you get a dog that wiggles. But if you just are nice and easy, hand goes down, scratches, good. And get them really used to being touched. And then when a stranger does it, well, first, the first level is you get a dog that's really comfortable and hold reasonably still while you go over it. Then you have somebody the dog knows really well, a spouse, a good friend, and have them go over the puppy. And again, if they want to jump up and such, you put the food in front of their face, and they haven't had breakfast or dinner, and they're hungry. Some dogs are very food motivated, some aren't. So once you have that, have all the people that the dog knows go through the routine. Give it a name, stand, stay, or show, and have your friends do it and show them how to do it. If she's not comfortable with them going over the rear, just have them scratch her ears and run their hands down the back. And the whole exam and leaning over, and with boys you worry about testicles and holding the tail. That all comes once they're comfortable with just somebody coming up and running their hand down their back. Until you have that, don't push it. It just creates more problems. So I'll get the boy out. Let me do gating. That's a good stand. Good girl. And as a puppy, in a puppy class, I don't worry about them being wiggly. I just worry about them having a good time.